This is an audiovisual study guide for Chapter 18 of Dana Harris's Introduction to Biblical Greek Grammar. So the first concept you need to understand is contract verb forms when vowel contraction occurs with the present stem. So when connecting vowels, an epsilon or omicron are added to verb stems that end in alpha, epsilon, or omicron, they contract according to predictable patterns. These are called contract verbs. Vowel contraction only takes place with the present stem and those forms that are built using the present or imperfect stem, including all present tense forms. So you've got your non-indicative forms, your participles as well. Vowel contraction does not occur when a tense formative is used, forms other than present or imperfect tense. They lengthen their final stem vowel before tense formatives. So vowel contraction only occurs with forms derived from the present tense stem, involves combinations of an alpha, epsilon, or omicron, and an epsilon or omicron. So alpha plus alpha equals alpha long, alpha plus epsilon eta equals alpha long, alpha plus epsilon iota equals alpha long with a iota subscript, alpha plus omicron omega goes to omega, alpha plus omicron iota or omicron epsilon equals omega, epsilon plus an alpha is an eta, epsilon plus epsilon or epsilon iota equals epsilon iota, epsilon plus omicron or omicron or epsilon equals omicron epsilon, epsilon plus omega equals omega, omicron plus epsilon or omicron equals omicron epsilon, omicron plus omicron epsilon equals omicron epsilon, omicron plus eta or omega equals omega, omicron plus epsilon iota or omicron iota equals omicron iota. Vowel contraction. If a stem vowel is followed by a diphthong that begins with the same vowel, the stem vowel drops out, as with the present, middle, passive, indicative, second person, singular forms. So vowel lengthening before a tense formative. Contract verbs lengthen their final vowel before a tense formative, which makes them relatively easy to recognize. So vowel lengthening before aorist tense formatives. Etimesa, etimesamen, etimethain. So we've got before perfect tense formatives, you see tetimeka, tetimemai. Vowel lengthening before pluperfect tense formatives, etet imekain, etet imei. So you can look through those examples. This chapter is about morphology, and if your eyes start to glaze over and you don't understand, you will when you take a look at the paradigms, and you have a lot of paradigms to memorize for this chapter. So if you're the kind of person that this doesn't make sense at all, look at the paradigms, work on memorizing them, and then come back to this information. If you're the kind of person that you get this, but memorizing paradigms is hard, then work on understanding these concepts, and it will make memorizing the paradigms much easier. So for this, you need to be able to work with contract verbs, parse, read them, understand what they mean, and memorize a lot of paradigms that will help you recognize all contract verbs.